So here is all the fun. I'm going to have to quickly adjust my overlays because I've noticed that small little issue there because the observer panel is run after doing WCS previously. So let's take a look at where these players are spawning. Merry-Go-Round is going to be the map in the first game of this best of 3. Sorry, it's not game hot. I will switch back to that though for the next game. Spawning up in the top right hand position, we have got the red Zerg player representing Team Acer, none other than Nerchio. And his opponent to the top left, the blue Terran, also representing Team Acer, it is MMA. So these two are going to be duking it out for us, and well, it is a team semi-kill. And I say a semi-kill because there's a loser bracket. So 2 players get through. The group stage, or the group, is just insane. The bracket is incredibly stacked of these players trying to get through. These are the only 2 Acer players in the bracket, as I just double-checked that. Yeah, they are. So, a bit unfortunate for them that they've met in the first round. A couple of teams are going to have very annoying situations in terms of meeting each other. For example, My Insanity have potentially Jack G and Saxry meeting in the second round game. I may just try and jump into that if I can, because that will be a spectacular game. Otherwise, this game, what have we got going on? It was just a nice little racked into refinery coming down from MMA, so he should be going for some Reapers. Meanwhile, Nerchio has decided to go for the hatchery first. I saw MMA play last night at WCS EU Challenge. I was casting him along with Penguin. He was able to advance to his group quite nice and happily. So, admittedly, that wasn't actually a TvZ, it was a TVP. So, I'm going to be interested to see what these guys get up to. Although, last night up against Starnan, that was an awesome game by MMA and Starnan. Actually, it was incredibly close, back and forth the entire time. So, could have been either person's win up into Premier there. Now, as expected, Reaper is on its way out. Should be 2 Reapers. Generally, that's the way players go up against a Zerg player early on. 2 Reapers into some Hellions, sometimes Banshee. It depends really on how they want to be playing it. Merry-Go-Round isn't the greatest map for Banshee, and that's because of this little bit of air fencing coming through here. It actually really block up where the Banshee's able to go. There's not as much dead space as it does appear from the mini-map. MMA, though, moving forward now. This first Reaper just going to have a little bit of fun, and it is just going to be the one, interestingly enough. It's a Marine following off the back of this. Now, the Marines are going to be able to pick up any scouting overlord that decides to come on in. Trying to get that information. I'm also keeping a really close eye on whether we get a second refinery come down from MMA or not. Nerchio for the moment hasn't taken any gas. That's to be expected considering that he's going for this 15 hatch. Could have gone 15 hatch into a gas into a pool then, but it's a less common build. Reapers trying to get some damage down, force 2 Spore Crawlers, but that's just to keep the drones alive. They'll get cancelled once this Reaper is fended away. Behind this, MMA, he's adding in his factory. But he does want to be keeping this Reaper alive for as long as possible, though gets in a little bit trapped. That was very, very close for him. Managing to just keep it up, though. So that's the important thing. As long as the Reaper's alive, it's going to regenerate that health really damn quickly thanks to combat drugs. So it's nothing too much to worry about if it does go down. You can actually be sitting there and just pull it back, wait for it to regen that back up. Now the second gas is coming through for MMA. This could signal that he's moving in towards a Banshee style play. Particularly with Cloak is the big thing that you generally see if you get those 2 gases there. So the option available to MMA to get very harassment heavy. While this isn't, as I said, the greatest map for Banshee because of the lack of dead space, it can still be very effective, especially if we don't see any sign of fun things like Spore Crawlers coming down just to grant that detection or a really early lair from Nerchio. All in all, Nerchio, he's playing just the standard style, adding in those 2 gases now. It'll be interesting to see if he gets speed or a lair first out of that gas. There's change of thoughts for both, and to be honest, there's no big advantage, or they both have advantages and disadvantages, but speed is going to be coming down from Nerchio. So Nerchio, not rushing up into tech, instead wanting to get that added safety of Zergling speed. That'll certainly help him with the Hellion pressure that starts coming through. He's also getting a Rotoran down, and this positioning of the Rotoran, I've got to say, is quite intriguing. At the back of his natural, so he's not going to be going for the Rotoran double evolution chamber wall off at the front, just to provide a bit of a safer position. Instead, just waiting back and going to be, well, blocking up some of the back parts, so that does actually minimize the area that the Hellions can move through. But I'd say, yeah, this is a really cool situation to be in. Just a different approach. There's the Baneling Nest. So the Baneling Nest coming down just reassures us that it's not going to be, say, like a 1-1 Roach timing, but generally if you're going to see that, you would see the lair first come down, probably not even getting speed, and the double evos down, of course, to get that double upgrades through. Now, MMA, he's moving forward, he's got a Banshee behind this, Cloak is researching, so he's committing to that quite heavily in terms of the gas count. Little poke up by these Hellions. The interesting thing here is that there is only the one Reaper, so it's less of an ability to tank up some of this damage against the Queens. Hellions do have to be kept relatively safe. Nerchio's gone up to 4 Queens, 3 of them being very aggressively forward, pushing back any units that try and come through. Just attempting to get a tad more creep spread, if at all possible, so that's all alright. A few Roaches, they're coming through, and I say a few, it's 12. So this is actually a big commitment. This is going to be a Roach Bane all-in. Okay, that is very cool. I'm surprised he didn't get a third gas for that. He will have the money for it. This is... Wow, okay. I should have seen this coming earlier. But this is a very, very interesting spot to be in. Waiting now to see when this hits. I don't believe, actually, MMA has seen any sign of this. He doesn't know about the Baneling Nest, doesn't know about the Roach one. And he won't have seen anything come through. The Cloak Banshee is now up here. Getting a couple of shots off, so we'll see a lot of Lings coming out, but that shouldn't be too crazy alarming as of yet. But here come the Banelings, and with the 3rd CC at the front, that's not going to help. There's no bunkers down. The Banshee will do some to pick this off. Obviously, can't kill everything over time. At the moment, though, just a lot of Hellions coming back there. He's trying to pick off some of these Banelings as they come through, but it's the main base that's the target of Nerchio. His Banelings need to connect to those supply depots if at all possible. The Roaches not going to be able to pick them off with the repairs coming through, but the Banelings will be able to finish that off. Good repairs coming down from MMA at the moment. He's also dishing out some good damage with that Banshee. 8 kills on that already. Still, down goes the supply depot, down goes one of the barracks, and the Lings now flooding through. MMA taking quite a bit of damage here, his natural base also taking some substantial fire. The Banshee trying to clear out most of this as possible, and note that there is still more units in production coming through now from Nerchio. He's just getting a couple of drones now. Nerchio is taking some decent damage behind this though. He's lost 11 workers, but is definitely coming off better in this trade, really racking up the kills against MMA. But MMA has those Banshees. 2 of them chipping away at anything that is trying to push through, and while it will take a long time to kill this off, it will all eventually die. It's just if enough damage is done before that. MMA is down to 21 SCVs, but due to this being a Roach Bane play, a lot of lava has been spent to this, so Nerchio, along with the losses he's taken, has also got a very low drone count, so it's not all over yet for MMA as long as he can clean this up, and the Banshee are doing a good job. The final few Roaches now just dying. We can see confidence already coming through from MMA as he chucks down those additional mules. So MMA is doing everything that he can to hold this off. We got a lot of droning coming down from Nerchio, although no sign of a 3rd hatch. The last few Zerglings are going to get picked off, and the supply is heavily in Nerchio's favor at the moment. But Nerchio has massively delayed his tech. His drone count is only at 35. So he took some losses, but he cut the drones for so long that he has actually got a pretty mediocre economy, especially with his 3rd only just getting started. MMA, on the other hand, yes, he's down in workers, but he's got 3 orbital commands. That's 3 potential mules, and also triple SCV production per cycle, so he's going to be able to actually ramp that up relatively quickly. Add in these Banshees still having a great time, taking down some Queens that have strayed a bit too far away from any detection. Is going to be trying to pick those off as quickly as possible, forcing a few more transfuses. Of course, the Spore Caller will grant detection. 2 Banshee can one-shot down drones, and that's going to help a lot. But yes, the Banshee having a good little bit of a party. Roach speed and more Roaches coming on through here for Nerchio, plus a Nidus network. He's going to be looking to get a Nidus play in here. There's not enough space to hide that, though, from the vision of MMA. But does MMA have anything to actually stop that Nidus worm? Well, not too much in the way of units at the moment. Just those 6 Marines and 3 Banshee, one of which dies. That is the sort of thing that MMA really does not want to happen. Losing a Banshee there is going to be very painful, especially as more Roaches pop on through. The Nidus network won't have been spotted, I don't think. The Banshee hasn't come through there, so no vision of that for MMA as of yet. MMA adding in his armory, adding in, obviously he's got the double engineering base, does have 1-1 done, so an upgrade advantage here for MMA, quite substantially. MMA, of course, can see this. Is he going to react in time? Instantly pulling a lot of these SCVs, wants to get picking it off before anything comes sneaking into his base. Banshee is getting a little bit of damage down, and that Nidus network will not complete, so that's a decent gas loss there. Having that taken down, it does cost a good chunk to get that up and running. And ultimately, Nerchio now is going to have to look to try and come in the front door. Now, there's 2 bunkers here already for MMA, but let's not beat around the bush. He is incredibly limited in terms of the units and army supply he's got down at the moment. Army supply is 60 to 32 in Nerchio's favor. Admittedly, a good chunk of that is in roaches, which aren't the most supply efficient unit. 6 banelings on the field, but the repair's going to be coming on through, trying to buy a bit more time here. There is 1 tank, and that is going to be surprisingly useful, especially if this wall-off can be held for a short amount of time. There's actually a little gap there as banelings come waltzing on through. They're not getting focused yet, and the tank will go down. This is looking very, very good for Nerchio at this stage. The 2 bunkers standing for the moment. 1 will fall, but there's only a handful of Marines there. Where are the Banshee? They're all dead, so that big anti-air that's required in order to take this out, not in existence. There is a tank up on the high ground, so Nerchio pushing on forward. He's trying to get a couple more SCV kills and certainly racking those up to 51 workers killed so far this game. The Overseer, 1 of them, goes down. Nerchio's still up in the supply by a good chunk, double the army supply at the moment. He does have some medevacs, does have that tank, of course. SCV's being used to try and tank up some of this damage, buy a bit more time. The siege tank getting some good shots down. The roach count starting to diminish. There are more on the way, plus more in production. Nerchio is committed to this. He's still only at the 41 drones. The tank count is now up at 2. And as these tanks start climbing in number, as long as they stay alive, their efficiency up against these roaches will spiral out of control very, very quickly. But the roach count is also rapidly rising. MMA microing these Marines to the absolute max. Behind this, Nerchio has now decided that this aggression needs to stop. He's identified that those siege tank numbers are going to start getting a lot higher and getting a lot more efficient. So, is just waiting for it. If he takes out this CC, it will be some nice damage. There's, of course, the 3rd CC there as well. But with a repair, not going to be able to achieve that. The Roach is just staying out of range of that tank fire. A few more Marines on their way down. MMA really is in emergency mode at the moment, trying to get this tank into position. Of course, unsieging it and moving it forward does provide a risk unto itself. A couple more shots coming on through. Damage coming through quite nicely. The tank is going to get jumped on, but there's a tank on the high ground still providing shell damage. And yet again, MMA is going to be able to hold a very prolonged and heavy invested engagement from Nerchio. The working count is 53 to 33, but as I said previously, all 3 mules are available. Nerchio, while he has taken a 3rd base, he doesn't have a particularly high drone count. At nearly 18 minutes into this game, 52 workers is insanely low. Hydralisks are coming out off the back of this, as well as the +1, and that's the other area, don't forget, that MMA is feeling quite comfortable. He's up in the upgrades, 1-1 compared to 0-0, so having that double upgrade advantage is definitely going to be a good factor in these future trades. Still keeping an eye on where Nerchio decides to go. He's pumping out quite a few roaches, actually. He's up to 12 already. But, to be honest, MMA won't struggle to deal with these. He's kind of got that critical mass of infantry and a couple of tanks there to buy himself some time, at least until an all-out assault comes through. The medevacs really help against the roaches, and as does the stim and +1-1, of course. So, MMA, starting up his 2-2 now, wants to float down this 3rd command center. Is having to take it closer to his opponent, which is just a bit of a pain because it's then on the path of the Zerg. But also, it's not the end of the world because he's got some tanks, he can secure some area, and of course, Nerchio is going for Roach Hydra as a composition. A couple of these Roaches running about, going to go for a little look. Not quite sure where they're off to, maybe just checking to make sure they can try and find this double drop, which is actually going to intercept them. A couple of Roaches could go down here, a lot going on red health, quick little stim forward. MMA going to be going for the evolution chambers, wants to really drive home that upgrade lead, takes out 1 of them. That was the +1 carapace. Now, up against the Terran, which has got a lot of Marines, the carapace can actually heavily reduce the damage taken. The +1 missile attack force will help as well. The Hydralisk chasing down these medevacs. This one, better can't waste to boost, does have it up now, so should escape. 1 full medevac goes down, and that is an ideal loss. Couple of tanks, 1 up on the high ground, 2 up on the high ground after. You're going to provide a lot of support. It will be challenging for Nerchio to take those out. In terms of numbers, Nerchio is still up on this fight. It's going to take down, or trying to take down those tanks, but actually trading up against the Marines instead. That's racking up a lot of kills on these tanks. 1 finally at the front goes down, and that means the cover of this 3rd severely limited. The tanks not repositioning as of yet. The infantry basically non-existent. There's only 12 Marines there. The bunker trying to hold strong will finally fall. Resources lost. Nerchio coming off worse from this, but if he's able to pick off or keep this worker count low, he'll be okay, but he hasn't done that. 62 workers apiece. MMA despite taking so much aggression early on, has held with just enough and has actually managed to stabilize the economy. His upgrades are about to jump even further ahead with 2-2 coming through. And when that hits, this is when Nerchio is going to be feeling very uncomfortable. He doesn't have muscular augments. He doesn't have Hydra range. And Roach Hydra against Biotank isn't exceptional anyway. It's not something that long term is going to be a great solution. So the Hive coming through now from Nerchio. He's also securing up a 4th base, trying to stay that base ahead of MMA. But MMA has pretty much leveled out the supply now, and if we look at the incomes, he's mining more minerals per minute thanks to those mules on the equal work account. This is allowing a lot of production. MMA's army supply is only now actually 20 below that of Nerchio's. And in a Roach Hydra composition, that's going to be quite challenging, especially as the tank count is ever increasing. 5 tanks now down on the field, and they're going to be dishing out potentially a lot of damage, as we've seen them do with that last little push forward. MMA, he's adding in Burrow, adding in the +1 melee attack, so he's going to be looking to transition into Ultralisks, most likely. That should be the most obvious tech path through this, but again, the upgrades are going to be a long way behind. 3-3 already coming through now for MMA. He's at 2-2 compared to 1-0. 1-1 will be done shortly for the ranged units, but this is a crazy game how MMA's been able to hold this. Remember, it is a best of 3, and this is only game number 1. Looks like a little bit of lag coming through there. Hopefully that gets cleaned up relatively soon. But yeah, waiting now for these roaches, for the Hydras to try and make something happen. No 4th base yet coming through for MMA. He's just finishing that command center up, so may float it down in the near future. We do have the +1 vehicle and ship weapons coming down as well from the Terran player, so that's going to enhance the ability of those tanks to dish out some good damage. The Hive and Ultra Cavern, I don't believe that's been scouted. Okay, the Hive morphing has been seen. So, MMA should be aware that in the future, Ultralisks are quite a likely option from this. Vipers also could come out. Vipers, if they're able to get some good blinding clouds on the tanks, could certainly minimize the splash damage they give through. But generally, that's going to be seen if you're going for a bit more of a heavy mech composition as opposed to Biotank. Double Drop is going to discover some Marines, and we see just how efficient they are with those 2-2 upgrades compared to 1-1. Few Hydralisks are going to come through, but the Stutter Step Micro is solid. Nerchio taking some big losses, and this is just compounding on the fact that he's already about 4,000 resources down in the overall trades. An Infestor is there. A quick split of the Medivacs. Wants to try and save those if possible. One should be able to sneak away, especially with these reinforcements coming across. But now it's MMA getting aggressive. He's floated down that 4th base. He's looking for the 4th of Nerchio too. The tank line, very substantial, but a great fungal growth comes down early on. Should get off a decent chunk of the Marines. The medevac count very, very high though. 7 medevacs. So not exceptionally high, but still pretty high for this stage. 4th base taking some decent damage. The Ultralisks about to start popping out. Only 3 though. 3 Ultras isn't super scary. It's enough to be a little bit intimidating, especially when the Marauder count is sitting at 0. But with 3-3 about to kick in now for MMA compared to 1-1, that is an astonishing upgrade lead that MMA has been able to grab out of this. Moving now from Nerchio. He's going to be coming forward, using those Ultras to try and tank up some of the damage. 2 of the Ultras instantly die. A couple of the tanks are going to go down. A good fungal growth on a good chunk of Marines. But the tanks are still dishing out the damage. Captain Tank here with the 16 kills. Certainly doing work. The Infestor count for Nerchio has gone down to 0. GG is called. And MMA is going to take game number 1 of this best of 3.